Okay, here is the eligibility requirements. As I said, you're entitled to file, but can you really file? That's like a two different scenario. Okay, you can enjoy this, entitlement up for 2 years. But if you think about including that year you can enjoy the most by using the married filing jointly. But after that 2 years, you can using the surviving spouse. But there are some eligibility requirements. That means you need to conform to certain standards in order to do that. Okay? So the first is did not marry before year end. Okay? Let me just give you some example here. So, still 2023. Okay? So this time frame, some of the spouse died during that year. Okay? For example, May. And say one of the spouse passed away in May, and the other spouse stayed single for the rest of the 2023, and then until say here 2024, okay, the surviving spouse still remains single, okay, and raising say their daughter. Okay, so while they file, because the surviving spouse did not remarry in this say 2024, the surviving spouse can file the qualifying surviving spouse for that year. Okay, but say at this time, okay, so for example November of 2024, the surviving spouse remarried. Okay, once that surviving spouse remarried, at future date, the surviving spouse lose that eligibility. Okay, because at this point, the surviving spouse remarried, so they're eligible to file this file jointly with the new spouse, or you can use another status if you want to file separately. You can also do that. But these 2 years of surviving, qualifying surviving status is an entitlement that you need to eligible in order to claim that. If you do some of the things that do not make you eligible for that entitlement, you lose that. Okay? So you have to be extremely clear. So you have to take decision. This is like a financial decision with all this sentimental, feeling aside. You need to think about this in the tax, in this financial sense. Okay, you do that, you lose some of the eligibility, right? So for example, you remarried and you do not trust the spouse, you have to do that separately. Does it affect your financial status? You have to really think about that. Okay, or you can just enjoy the full 2 years of this surviving qualifying surviving spouse eligibility to do this fine jointly status, and then you choose whatever that suits you. Okay, so did not remarry before the year ends. This is really, really important. And I want to be clear, did not remarry before year ends. It's that you want to use that status, and you want to use that status. When you use that, you file that this is the next year, right? So basically, it's previous year you did not remarry. Okay. So for example, this year, right? Say remarried, right? At start of this year, but that's not previous year. Okay. You can do this, claim this, and to report the previous years, and using the surviving spouse status previous year, because until year end, it did not happen until this year. Okay, so let me also try that, draw that for you. So hopefully this can make things clear. Reporting tax to file the tax most of the time it's the next year. So I'm going to use n and n plus 1. Okay? So what you do is to file tax in the n plus 1. And so as long as during that time, still within the 2 years frame that you're still entitled for this, qualified surviving spouse, and then you can do that, okay? Because you're filing here. As long as you are not remarried during this period, you can do that. But even if you remarried here before you filing that tax, it will influence this year, not influence the previous year. So you can still do that while you file your tax here, okay? You can still select that status because that happened a year before, okay? So that's something that should be paid special attention to. It's a kind of a lagging process.